this is great. I like I was telling you before. It's like I've been a fan since Species 3. You know, it this I always liked that style of storytelling. You know, you had Eve, you had Syl, you had Sarah. You know.
Yeah. We were the offspring of the great one, Natasha Henstridge. I got to hang out with her a few times, and she's amazing.
She played her own offspring too.
Did she?
Yeah, because Eve was the original, and then she
Right.
played Syl in the second one, who was Eve's offspring.
Eve's daughter. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You know, technically your half sister.
I guess so, wouldn't it be, huh? I never thought about that, but yeah, it was a long time ago. So I have to go back and refresh my memory. But yeah, I think I was, if I remember correctly, I was mostly alien in that. Hi, my name is Sunny Mabrey. You might know me from Species 3, Snakes on a Plane. I have a new movie coming out called Beyond the Trek, and you are watching The 13th Wolfman.
Hey everybody, I'm the 13th Wolfman. You know, I have with me today, I have Sunny Mabry from Species 3, the new guy, and the new movie that she's got coming out, Beyond the Trek. I also have Ian Trooter. I want to get it right.
That was good.
Yeah, and he is the director of Beyond the Trek. Welcome to sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I watched this movie last weekend, and I enjoyed it. I wasn't quite sure when the movie was starting where I was going to fall, you know, in this movie yet, whether I liked it or not. But yeah, this definitely had a fun feel to it. So it's very well done.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, is the acting.
The acting, the direction, the whole look of the look of the whole thing just looks really good.
Ian did a great job. I mean, so many elements to this movie that make it super cool.
If you cast a movie well, then they do the work for you.
And Sunny shines in this movie. She really does.
She does. That's
Thank
for sure.
you. Thanks. It was so much fun. I loved playing this role. It's like a role that I'd never gotten to play before. It's really nice to get to be the boss for once.
Yeah, very strong personality.
Yeah, I love that about her. I mean, she's got her her damaged quality as well, but she's definitely very strong. She has to be in order to command.
Where do you go to develop the characteristics for a character like this?
Well, I remember I have this list of questions that I ask myself, and it's maybe a lot of actors do it, but it's like a general sort of set of questions and points to ask myself, things to think about involving this character. And I came up with a lot of history for her and how she got to this point, and sort of lived that out in my own way before I got to set. And, you know, I think it's just about playing the role and really being in the moment. And, you know, you might walk onto the set super nervous about playing such a strong character, but once Ian says action, it's something, you know, something just comes out and all of a sudden you're in it. I love that. It's my favorite thing. It's like, how did I do that? I'm not even sure.
And Ian, where does this, I got a feeling a lot of this comes from the love of like sci-fi, like Star Trek, and that growing up. I mean,
yeah, I think that might be how the word Trek managed to slip into the title. That wasn't the original title. It was originally.
Well, the original title was Teleios.
Teleios.
Yeah,
which means perfect in Greek, and it defined the perfect genetically modified humans, which made it tricky to cast, to find people that had both the looks and the intelligence and the physical characteristics necessary to pull it off. But yeah, I think anyone who's a fan of sci-fi is influenced in some respect by Star Trek, and, you know, classics like Blade Runner and Alien and Battlestar Galactica. And I could go through the entire list. But I do think that Beyond the Trek, you know, formerly Teleios, is kind of a standalone piece. The fact that it has costumed characters, and more of a instead of a dystopian world, it's more of a a world that we idealize, where people look beautiful and they're wearing, the uniforms are all look sharp, and the ships look clean, and so that for that reason, it does follow in the footsteps of Gene Roddenberry's classic, because he had a very idyllic look on the world. Where all the races and sexes are getting along, which we're still struggling with right now. So obviously, once you have that, then you can get into deeper themes, about the human condition, which obviously Beyond the Trek does as well.
One of the scenes in this movie I truly love, and it made me think of a scene from another favorite movie of mine, and that's Close Encounters. And it's where you finally realize that the guy that's in love with the robot is nuts. All of a sudden I hearken back onto the scene where Richard Dreyfuss is stealing his neighbor's plants and all that stuff just to build, Devil's Tower in his front room. The scene where he loses his mind, and I'm like, I love that about this movie. It gave me that, it made me hearken back on something else,
Is that for Sonny's character's realization, or just the realization from an audience perspective? Are you speaking?
Talking about Wheatus falling in love with Ursula's character.
Right.
And when you finally realize he's actually nuts,
He seemed pretty nuts from the beginning, I thought, but I guess maybe that falling in love with an android. But that's happening. I was actually reading an article today, or a couple days ago, about a man in Japan who actually fell in love with his sex, doll. It was life-sized, human-looking doll that he has baths with, and apparently, he was on the outs with his wife, but they have a kid together, and the kid, who's now late teen, early 20s, has to share a household with an inanimate object that her father considers his spouse. So this is very much happening.
So this is the next movie you're making, right?
Or a prequel, maybe.
I've seen that on CNN. There's like a series or something about AI people falling in love with artificial intelligence.
That's
happening, definitely. They become more and more lifelike.
Yeah.
People are lonely.
Well, you got to figure
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. I was going to ask from conception to the end, how long did it take to make this movie?
Oh my gosh, Sonny, we shot this in 16 days. Can you believe that?
Wow.
16 shooting days. I mean, not continuously, but we did. Oh, sorry, we have a guest star over here. This is my son. So, yeah, he's a genetically modified human too. Just doesn't follow rules.
He's perfect.
So, but we had a very aggressive schedule, and we lost some of our shooting days because the turnarounds we couldn't build all the sets in one location. So and the small soundstage that we had, we shot this all in a 40 by 60 foot soundstage, and we were asshole to elbow the whole time, just on top of each other constantly. And so we had to build one set, and then the set came down, and then we had to build another set. And so a lot of times, Sunny would be walking from one room to the other, and she'd be walking down a hallway, with a purpose, and then we wouldn't shoot that scene until 3 weeks later. Where she's going. Exactly. So she had to be, the actors really had to be on the ball with knowing contextually where they were at any given time. Both from a geography standpoint and an emotional standpoint, because there's emotional arc to all these characters, and so a lot of times, we're shooting completely out of context of linear context. So, 1 minute they're supposed to be, we're all normal people, we're just on this mission, and then the very next scene that we're shooting is like toward the end of the film where everybody's falling apart. So, The actors really had their work cut out for them, but thankfully, everybody really did an amazing job.
But that's like that reminds me of like the movie Hell Night that came out in like the early '80s. There's a scene where they get lost out on the grounds, and there's supposed to be this giant maze of like a hedge maze. Honestly, it's only like one row of hedges, and they just had them walk down it, and then it's like, okay, we need you to come around the corner, and they put the camera on the other side of it, and then they just have them walk down it again a different way, and it made it look like it was like 90 feet by 100 feet or something like that.
The tricks of the trade. You just have to make the best with what you can. I mean, if you saw the soundstage that we shot this in, you'd go, what? This is like the size of a Starbucks.
It never felt like that, though. It really didn't feel that small because of what they did with it. It was amazing. I think there was only one time that you guys must have planned that out so perfectly, because I think there was only one time that a mistake was made where like you struck the set before it was time to strike the set or something, and you guys had to build it back really quick or something. Wasn't there like one time that happened?
I think, I don't think we struck it. I think we just ran out of time, and then just because I think we were talking about as the last scene or last shot. It wasn't the last scene, but it was the last. It was our martini shot, and I think we had to build part of that dome again.
Oh,
because we tore that dome down, and then we're like, we had one more scene with you and O'Neill in there, and so we had to build just enough of the dome, maybe 6 feet of it, so we could get reactions back and forth between the two.
Yeah, but the fact that happened once is amazing because of how much organizing you had to do to get those pieces, all out of order like that, but in order so that the sets would work.
Yeah, well, fortunately, you were all wearing the same costumes the whole time. That would have been a nightmare. A lot of wardrobe changes.
That helps so much. Yeah.
So how'd you get involved with this, Sunny?
I auditioned the old-fashioned way, and
that's it.
My first audition. We always talk about the story. I did pretty well the first audition. He wasn't there, unfortunately. And then when I came back for the callback, this is classic actor sad situation, is that you can never something about that second call is you can just never quite capture the magic you had in the first one, and that's the one that counts the most. And not only did I not capture it, it was just bad, and I could feel that. And so I went home and I was like, but the first one went so well, and I know that he's somewhat interested in me, because when I got there, Ian showed me all the models of the ships, and it was really amazing. It was on the set already. So I felt like I had enough information to then email him and say, I really want to do this. I like the script a lot. I'm sorry that second audition sucked, but the first one was good, right? And he agreed with me.
Well, the first one is the one thing I didn't let her in on is that like you were cast already after the first audition. It was kind of a formality to bring you in. So, but we always, you always have to play hard to get. You don't want to seem too anxious. Because when I saw, she was I think one of the last ones that we cast for the film, except I think for the commander, for the Lance Broadway's character. But your character, the Iris Duncan character, is so critical. She's the emotional journey of the whole film. And we'd had actor after actor coming in, and for one reason or another, they just weren't right. And either physically they didn't look appropriate, or they couldn't pull off the intellectual necessity that we had for those characters. And so as soon as and I was starting to get kind of desperate, because we had a set time that we're supposed to start shooting. So we were trying to get everything cast, and we had most of the other roles filled, but we can't shoot if we don't have that character. And so the second I saw the recorded audition that Craig did, I was like, oh, that's it. And Craig was like, don't be too anxious. Craig Campabasso is our casting director, and he's amazing. And he said, bring her in, just bring her in. And so when she came in, I was really excited to show her the set, because I was like, in my mind, oh, she's already cast, but then I think it made her nervous. So
Maybe that was it. Maybe I was just nervous because I was like all of a sudden like, whoa, he's showing me the set. But no, it's you could have very easily uncast me that day, but you didn't. Thank you.
No, I think it didn't. I mean, as long as you were, didn't vomit or run out of the room, I think you were pretty cast. So I was sort of like, yeah, that wasn't as good as before, but whatever. It's nerves.
Good thing we have a lot of. It's digital now. We have a lot of takes. We
exactly.
shoot a bunch of these.
Except our shooting wise, we didn't have that many takes, so it had to be pretty on the ball. But I figured with more prep, you would have been fine.
More prep, yeah.
Right.
We got it done.
We did.
Yeah. So did you have very many rehearsals with the script beforehand? Because I just sometimes wonder. It's like sometimes people are like, okay, here's the script, we're gonna go with it, and what happens is what happens. But I would think that people would like to get like the script down before they even started shooting.
No, we didn't. I mean, I'm kind of old school. I started off in theater, so I love doing rehearsals. But scheduling wise, and plus we got it cast so soon, fully cast so soon, right before we started shooting. I think we had one table read, and that was it. And so we were just rehearsing on set. And the sets were great. I mean, they were building the sets while we were rehearsing. I think in some cases they were still like painting it in the background when cameras started rolling and like on the sets, So it was such an aggressive schedule. But I mean, we had no problems with delinquency or actors forgetting their lines or anything like that. I think everybody was really wired in. So that made it really. We wouldn't have been able to pull it off otherwise.
So. For the both of you, what was the goofiest thing or oddest thing happened to you while making this movie?
Well, I got the giggles when Ursula's character, the robot, whenever, I don't know why, but whenever she was so good at being this robot that I was just impressed with it all the time to the point that it made me laugh. And I think when they had to chop off, is that giving things away? If I should say
that's all right. It's midway through the film, but yeah.
When
I love that
thing happened to her in the movie, I can't say, but anyway, it was some physical stuff that happened that made me laugh a lot. Just I don't know why. I have a sick mind, I think.
Well, I think Ursula in general was she was really a breath of fresh air. She's an Australian actress and has she speaks with this Australian accent. Whenever she walks in the room, she would light up the room. So completely the opposite of her character. She's this very animated, very friendly, very gregarious person. The second she walks in, she's like, "Hello, mate," and then as soon as she walks in on a roll, she's just completely became this robot. I mean, everybody to a certain extent did, but I mean, she had probably the furthest extreme to go to step outside of who she actually is. Whereas I think most of the other cast sort of manifested parts of themselves within their roles. But gosh, thinking of, I was just thinking of how crazy it was to shoot as fast as we did in that tiny space. It was quite stressful. I think that the joke that I frequently make is the plot summary, which is about a group of people who go on a mission and trying to accomplish something within an enclosed space, and then slowly start going crazy and turning on each other. In some ways, represents what happened on the set too.
Yeah.
Not with the talent, but certainly there's a lot of tension going on, behind the scenes. We tried to control that as much as possible, and I think it was as a result of people trying to just do their jobs, and those tensions flared up. But I think it was sometimes making a film is getting a film off the ground is like rolling a boulder up a mountain, and then the production of it is like when the boulder starts going down the other direction and you're just holding on for dear life. So I think in some respects this was, because after the whole thing was done, I was like, what did we do? What did we do? What do we have? Was the camera in focus? I have no idea. So I didn't even have time while we were shooting to really check dailies or anything like that. So it was just kind of a big surprise for me when we finally looked through all the footage.
But that's the nice thing with today. I mean, if you were doing this 20 years ago, you would have to send out the film to a lab, have the lab send the film back. Then you got to go through the dailies by sitting in a projection room watching them. Nowadays, it's all digital, man. I mean, you could watch your dailies on your laptop if you want.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a little old school. The first film that I made was a 35 millimeter, and so it is what you're talking about. If we wanted rushes, which on low budget films you generally can't do, you can get them, the next day. But for us, usually we're watching it several days later. I kind of like that. I'm not a big fan of playback. I think that it can slow down production considerably when everyone's like, "Oh, let me see that shot," rewind, or put it in the computer and let's check it out. In my mind, it doesn't really help production to be able to do that. I think that everything is within the moment, and you either capture that moment or you don't. And you should know, if you're any kind of filmmaker, you should know when you're watching it, even if you're not watching it through the camera lens, did that work or did not work? And if you have to use playback to validate whether it was a good shot or not, unless it's a technical thing, was in focus, or if you're doing some sort of crazy rig stunt thing, you want to make sure that you captured it. But for me, I like just going with my intuition and seeing what I see on the set, and it either works or it doesn't work, and then you move on.
I never thought about it, but I could see where you're coming from with playback being kind of a pain. Yeah, I mean, I always thought from the other side of the, it's like, well, you don't have to deal with dealing with the labs and them going, oh, we screwed up and now you got to reshoot all this stuff and go get new film or whatever. I mean, some low budget films back in the day would go to like porn production companies and get the cut-ins. They would use up all their film, and they would just use they get like these 3 feet.
Short. Call it short.
Yeah.
So as you pay a lot less money for that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that I shot a lot of my early stuff on short ends. I think the biggest debacle that ever happened was a film that I wasn't directing, but I was the production designer for it. And there's certain things that even if you're doing a labor of love and you're asking for favors, you do have to pay people to do this kind of work, and it's a lot of the technical crew. A lot of times actors or creative people, if they get some sort of reel out of it, it's valuable for them. But people like camera loaders and grips and gaffers, stuff like that, you can't expect people to work on passion, lugging stuff around for 12 hours. So on this particular shoot, it was a camera assistant, second assistant camera, and it was the film loader. And the film is like the blood of a movie. You don't mess with your blood. And so they just got some person who's a freshman in a local community college to be their camera loader. And I said, I think that's a mistake. I think you got to just pay someone $50. You can get someone for $50, and this was back in late 90s. And she ended up loading all of the film emulsion side the wrong way. And so when they found, when they looked at the dailies, everything was blurry and out of focus and desaturated. And like, what's going on? So they wasted their entire first day. So at least digital can avoid stuff like that. But digital has a different problem because you get these little cards sometimes. And so you take the cards, and I've seen it where someone takes a card and then goes to craft services, put it on a refrigerator, and refrigerators have big magnets on them, and magnets erase data. And so someone put something on a refrigerator, and then when they tried to plug it in, there's nothing on it. It's dead.
Damn.
So
I know
to remember.
Yeah, really. I know we have to get set up for the live show. So before we go, where can people find you, Ian, on the internet?
Where can they find me? Well, right now I'm at my house, but I'd prefer they not show up here. They can find me. We're on social media. It's I think on Facebook it's still Teleios. but on Instagram and Twitter, it's Beyond the Trek. And please, one thing is that on IMDb, if you like the film, please go and rate it on IMDb. I think some people got misled by the title a little bit and thought it was a Star Trek movie and gave it a bad rating. So trying to get that rating back up.
Ah,
Okay.
no. It's a good movie. It deserves good ratings.
Right. On Amazon, it's doing well. Amazon
Good.
has some good ratings, and so award-wise, we're doing really well. But I just think I read some of the reviews on they must have thought it was a J.J. Abrams movie and wondered why it wasn't more explosions and action scenes.
And
No.
where can people find you, Sonny?
I'm at Sunny Mabrey. That's let's spell the name right. It's SUNNY MABREY, and that is me on Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat.
Cool.
Yeah.
I haven't
for
gotten
Son-
Snapchat yet. I still confounds me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I felt the same way about when I first started, but now it's kind of fun.
Now you're hooked.
Yeah. It's got all the little faces and stuff.
Yeah. Well, cutesy stuff. Can't do that.
For Sonny Mabrey and Ian Trooter, I'm the 13th Wolfman, and of course, I'm on the prowl.
All right. Thank you so much.